Vivid details of Bulgaria's murky world of organized crime have emerged in a Swiss courtroom hundreds of miles away, and it could change the drug trafficking game in Bulgaria once and for all. If I ask you to think of a crime boss, it would be easy to imagine somebody hiding in the shadows, or even somebody who's only known for his criminal activities. But Bulgaria's cocaine king is different. And as judges, prosecutors, and accused sat in a courtroom vying for a verdict, this would become evident. In February 2022, hearings began in Switzerland's Federal Criminal Court. The event was a money laundering trial involving Credit Suisse, the country's second-largest bank, and several other defendants. Even though he is not one of those accused, the trial revolves around Evelyn Banev, a former wrestler who's now on the run, Bulgaria's cocaine king. And the name is no coincidence. Banev has acquired more wealth with cocaine than one could ever imagine. Prosecutors say that he was in charge of a large group that helped launder more than $158 million between 2004 and 2008. And that's just a short period of Banev's criminal activity. Even shorter was the actual time period analyzed in court. The trial only looked at alleged money laundering from February 2007 to December of 2008, but the defense said that the time limit had passed. But another question remains. Why isn't Banev the main accused in the trial? Well, according to the authorities, Credit Suisse did nothing to stop his money laundering activities. We all know about Switzerland's neutral ground policy, so it's no wonder that criminals seek the country to launder their money. And it would be naive to think that the banks aren't going to take advantage of the situation. But on what information are the accusations based? In the trial, there are charges against 3 Bulgarians. 2 of them are close friends of Banev. And the third is a woman who used to work at Credit Suisse as a relationship manager. During the trial, the former relationship manager testified that Credit Suisse was aware of murders and cocaine smuggling allegedly linked to a Bulgarian gang, but still, they continued to manage the cash. The former banker stated that she informed her managers about events involving the clients, including 2 murders, but that they still decided to pursue the business. Seems like there are no limits on what people will do for money, including lying. Credit Suisse has disputed the money's illegal origins, claiming that former Bulgarian wrestler Banev and his associates ran legitimate businesses in construction, leasing, and hotels. But prosecutors disagree. They allege that Banev ran his business through a Byzantine web of over 200 companies, with the laundered funds invested in Bulgaria's financial and real estate sectors, particularly in constructing luxury property along the Black Sea coast. They also add Banev's criminal organization, infiltrate the highest level of Bulgaria's political and judicial environment. But no matter how spectacular this all sounds, this is only the most recent twist in Banev's extraordinary real crime story. Banev has been accused of possessing passports from several countries, including Venezuela. He performs on a global scale. He can sell his wares in some of the world's most important markets, including Italy and Spain, and he's trusted by South American cartels. Besides, he is extremely violent. The trial has included discussions about violent incidents in Banev's environment, such as the 2005 murder of Konstantin Dishlev, a former business partner of Banev's. Dishlev's mother was also murdered 3 years later, as she prepared to testify about Banev's activities. Suspicious, to say the least. So it's no wonder that Banev's wanted in several countries. He became the subject of an Interpol red notice after being sentenced in his native Bulgaria in 2018 for masterminding an organized crime group. Romania and Italy have also convicted him in absentia. Since 2018, Banev has been on the run. He was detained in Ukraine in 2021, but released after it was discovered that he was of Ukrainian nationality, and thus couldn't be extradited. What a plot twist, huh? But what became of Switzerland's trial? Press pause on that question for a second, because we're going to need to look at organized crime as a whole before we can resume this story. The origins of today's oligarchs and mafia can be traced back to the communist-era spy service, which filled a power vacuum amid bloody turf wars in the 1990s. They stole prized national industries and smuggled arms and drugs. Criminal groups in Bulgaria are linked to narcotics trafficking, prostitution, extortion and racketeering, various financial crimes, car theft, and even trafficking in stolen automobiles, which is also car theft. Human trafficking for sexual exploitation is among them as well. Counterfeiting and debit and credit card fraud are also common criminal activities carried out by Bulgarian organized crime. Human trafficking crime syndicates are extremely mobile, and victims are frequently sold or traded between syndicates. Many groups use a variety of legitimate domestic and international businesses to launder the proceeds of their illegal activities. Several well-known businessmen with ties to organized crime have invested in sports teams, real estate developments, and financial institutions. And high-level political figures are involved in a variety of illegal activities, ranging from illegal logging to drug and cigarette smuggling. There are allegedly two groups that are deeply embedded within the highest levels of government and work together. The influence of state-embedded actors extends from a Bulgarian government to the country's justice system, giving them near complete control over the state apparatus. State actors, for the most part, facilitate criminal markets by providing protection. Several public procurement contracts are awarded to specific companies that do not follow proper protocols, and officials at the highest level of government trade influence. Criminal groups primarily operate in Bulgaria's larger cities and resorts, but they might also operate in smaller municipalities and border regions. Except for forced begging, these criminal networks are now less violent towards victims of human trafficking. Drug markets are also relatively unaffected by violence, with force being used only on rare occasions. Criminal networks work closely with both state-sponsored and international criminal actors, Albanians, Turks, Latin Americans, and Italians who operate in their own countries. With the notable exception of Afghani human smuggling networks, which operate in Bulgaria but are controlled from Afghanistan, foreign criminal actors rarely operate within the country itself. It makes sense, right? I mean, why destroy your own country when you can just destroy someplace else? And with that way of thinking, along with some pretty strategic geographical conditions, that is the special ingredient to Bulgaria's tasty criminal pie. Bulgaria is a key transit country for the heroin trade, with domestic networks primarily involved in logistics. The Balkan route transports more than 70% of the heroin in Western and Central Europe, with most of the drug passing through Bulgaria. However, the amount of heroin moving to the country is likely to have decreased slightly following the pandemic lockdowns. Most heroin is destined for Western Europe, and it originates in Turkey. Local demand accounts for only a small portion of the profits. Heroin is the drug of choice for the marginalized, particularly the Roma community, who are accused of trafficking small amounts of heroin from Turkey and distributing it in Bulgaria. Corruption is a significant component of heroin trafficking, but overall, violence in the drug market is low. Although Serbia was once a major entry point for cocaine, recent reports indicate that flows have shifted from Romania to Bulgaria. The latter is primarily a transit country, but there is a small market in major cities and resorts. Bulgarian criminal networks have traditionally served as a logistical hub for cocaine trafficking, facilitating large-scale operations from South America to Western Europe. They are, however, increasingly organizing their own operations and recruiting mules to transport cocaine directly to their target markets. But what about other drugs? Bulgaria is primarily a transit country for the illegal cannabis trade, which has expanded dramatically since 2018. The logistics of cannabis trafficking from Albania to Turkey, Serbia, and Romania are facilitated by criminal networks. Cannabis grown in Bulgaria has recently been exported in greater quantities to Turkey and Greece. Cannabis is the most commonly used drug in the country, and demand is high, prompting organized crime groups to enter the market. Corruption is most likely a factor in cannabis trafficking, and checkpoints on the Macedonian, Romanian, and Turkish borders are particularly vulnerable. In Bulgaria, the use of synthetic drugs is also on the rise. Amphetamine production has been established in the Sofia region, while methamphetamine production has been established in the country's southeast. According to police reports, there's been an increase in the courier deliveries of synthetic drugs purchased online. Synthetic drugs arriving in from the Netherlands, Belgium, and the Czech Republic are trafficked through Bulgaria to Turkey, the Middle East, and North Africa. These flows are allegedly organized by foreign criminal actors, mostly of Turkish origin and based in Western Europe. But what about Credit Suisse's trial? Well, Credit Suisse has been found guilty of facilitating a money laundering scheme. And for now, Bonev runs free. But as you may have noticed, this is far from the end of Bulgaria's mafia. Because the crime network we explored is far greater than one man, and for now, no trial can destroy it. So the best that we can do is to try and understand where the drugs sold in Europe and America come from. Click here and find out how the drug travels from Colombia to other countries.